Back live with you tonight, here on In Focus. Can tell you straight away that you can be a part of this conversation now on 072-110-5584 and let us know what your thoughts are on the situation with the water in the country. We've got the Minister in the Department of Water and Sanitation. Yesterday they released some findings coming from the blue, green and no drop interim reports, and this of course happens at a time when the country is battling with a cholera outbreak which has so far claimed 26 lives. The report is damning in a sense, revealing that the quality of South Africa's drinking water is on the decline. For more on this, the Minister is with us in the studio. Mnchunu, good to have you and thank you very much for coming on.
Good evening to you and to the public.
Let's begin with the picture that is beginning to emerge. Let's start first with the wastewater systems. 168 out of 344 municipalities wastewater systems were critiqued, and it found that the 168 were in a critical state. You issued some non-compliance notices to about 90 municipalities. Only half submitted their corrective action plans. 50% just didn't bother to do anything about it. 34 of the 168 submitted the plans, and those plans were implemented. The balance, there's other in the planning phase, or a large part of them, no progress report at all. We'll get into the critical state of the system, but that response in itself tells us about, I don't know, the attitude of impunity, or there's either no consequence management, or they just look at what you're saying and say, well, what is Senzo Mchunu going to do to us? We're just not going to do anything about this.
The combination of the factors that you're talking about melt down to a situation that is undesirable and very worrying. Worrying in the sense that this situation as a whole affects people, their own personal lives, and then the whole life of the community, and ultimately the lives of South Africans. And it's a very serious state of affairs. We are talking about public institutions who are given a particular role to play. I mean, you can't have a school with kids expected to be taught, but there's no teaching for the whole day. You can have a hospital with patients, but there's no activity to help them. So it's a situation here. Municipalities have a role given to them by the Constitution of the Republic, and people are there from mayor downwards, from MM downwards. They've got responsibilities. Most of these responsibilities are written down, and they come in the form of laws of the country, governing and instructive to them in terms of what they need to do. So it goes beyond maybe an attitude or a nonchalant kind of a situation. It really questions governance of the country as a whole. It puts that into question. And we're all very worried about it. We're talking about it. And the sphere, local government, which we all respect, and throughout the world there's a sphere of government, and it's respected because it's close to people, it services people, it does all. But when they perform duties such that they drift away from the public in terms of trust, in terms of credibility, and it affects all of us, by the way, because people start questioning. They say, okay, we know these people. They're not going to help us on this matter. But what about those above us? Can they come and assist us? So it puts into question the whole question of governance. That we must correct.
What is the thinking, though, around the fact that, for example, you've got about 40 or so municipalities out of the 90 that, of course, have requested support? You've issued directives, but you don't issue, for example, the criminal charges against all but a few. I mean, are they not supposed to be all treated equally, to know that if you do not comply in this way, there are criminal charges that are coming to?
Well, currently, as we speak, there are 7 municipalities, additional municipalities, against whom we have opened cases. And of course, we issued directives at when we realized that there was a problem. The last time we made an assessment. Yes. This is last year, yes, for the green drop, right, because we started in 2001 after these assessments had been dropped, and at the end of and when they were the results came out, we realized that there's failure to comply, and it is this number. And then we gave them directives, and then the rest, some responded, some didn't respond, some asked for assistance, others submitted, others didn't submit, and it's a problem. Of course, you're saying, shouldn't we just open cases against them? It's the final resort, the opening of criminal cases. We start by talking to them. We give them directives. And then ultimately we open cases against them. And now, even this one is proving that it's not really working.
No, it's not. Because your DG says, look, we can only suggest to municipalities because of the way that it is structured, because it's a different sphere of government.
It's a different sphere of government. That is why we are now, we held a symposium about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, saying, how do we protect and the whole sector, the water and sanitation sector? And of course, that means that how do you ensure credibility of the sector, yeah, usefulness of the sector, reliability of the sector, all those matters. Now, one of the things that we have come to conclusion on, and which we presented on when President Ramaphosa called us to Cape Town last Friday to say, in order for you to improve your performance, what are the constraints, what are the problems that you are experiencing in your environment? Put them on the table so that we can, Cabinet can work on them and President can work on them. And we were very happy. That was a very helpful session, and we thank the President for that. We did put our submissions. Now we are taking steps in terms of implementing those. One of them is Section 63, which must be separated, because Section 63 gives Minister of Water and Sanitation powers to intervene, yes, when all other measures are not bearing fruit. Yeah. But the problem that happened was that it is tied to another act, Section 139, which can only be imposed by another sphere of government, which is provincial government over a municipality. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't implement Section 63 without this one being in place. Yet, you have a responsibility as water and sanitation to be a custodian of water in South Africa. Not just custodian, but not just custodian of water, but custodian of the cleanliness, custodian of the healthiness, yes, of water in South Africa. In other words, the quality of water. Yes. So that citizens out there, when they use water for whatever, but particularly for drinking purposes, yeah, they know this is guaranteed. You've got to sit at the top and guarantee. But in terms of actually doing those and ensuring those guarantees, we only do it on norms and standards. Yes. We issue norms and standards. Yes. But the actual doer on the ground, who actually pushes or pumps water to the citizen, yeah, is the municipality. So we depend on that.
So what do you do in that instance? I mean, if, for example, you say, we issue grants, we give them to municipalities, yes, they're supposed to use these grants for maintaining of the infrastructure. Hammanskraal, take a typical situation there, yes, where you keep giving them the grants, but it seems they did not take the grants and fix the Rooiwal water treatment. I don't know what they use the grants for. You decide, no, we're going to go to court. and you get stuck in court, people die at that moment when you're going back and forth in court. But the matter is still not resolved, and you're back there again now, having to come in and pump more money to try and solve a problem that otherwise should have been solved by the grants and, of course, the collection of revenue that the municipalities should be doing.
Two matters that you are bringing to the fore. The first one is that what then happens to the grants and all of that. It's a big question, because our assessment, when we cast our eyes 5 years back to how these grants have been used, even the third one, which is MIC, which is even bigger than the ones that we give to municipalities, outbreak and WISIC.
Yeah.
You will find expenditure in the last 5 years. I mean, when you look at it, it's quite a big amount of money in each municipality over 5 years.
Yeah.
When you look at the demand for what these grants should have accomplished or should have done, the demand is high. So expenditure is high, demand for more money is high. But when you look at what actually did they do, what did this money get spent on, you don't find something that easily corresponds, even before you really do an investigation and calculations.
Yeah.
Now, this is worrying. Now, what do? We have decided, and this takes us to the next issue. Do you keep on pumping? Do you keep on just giving and so on? The Constitution and the laws say so. But we're beginning to say there must be a particular way, effective way, of ensuring that these grants are fenced for this particular purpose.
Yes.
And there is assurance to the public that when these grants are given to municipalities, they are used. And they are used solely for this, not to do any other things like buying a second car and so on. They are solely ring-fenced for this particular. Yeah. This is one of our proposals. Right. So apart from reviewing legislation in relation to 63 and 139, we are also saying there is a particular way now that grants, or there must be particular mechanisms to which issuing of grants must be subjected to. It's like saying, yes, you'll have your grants, but, because they are conditional grants anyway.
Yes.
So those grants must be really conditional.
Yeah. It's something like what Treasury says with SOEs to say, well, you want a bailout, you'll get the bailout. It's not a bailout in this particular instance, but it's a grant. So it can be even more proactive to say, well, this is how in trenches we would suppose release this money.
One of the interesting proposals that are coming from the sector and from us as a department is to say, the Act, Water Services Act, says the water service authorities, that is municipalities designated as such, are the ones that provide water. In other words, they are water services providers.
Yes.
So they are the authority, they are providers. Now, the ideal situation, which we are looking at now very sharply, is to introduce a situation where if as an authority, you are an authority, but separate provision of water from authority. In other words, get under the municipality without taking their powers as a sphere, but create a mechanism that ring-fences the management of water services and provision of this at a professional, really professional, in a professional way, and also finances. You know, one of the things that happen is that municipalities collect quite a lot of money via services like water in particular in this instance. But if you calculate how much money gets back to O&M, that is operation and maintenance of water-related infrastructure, and even building new infrastructure, it drops the jaw.
Right, back live with you tonight, John in Focus, and thanks for staying on. The Department of Water and Sanitation releasing its findings yesterday on the state of wastewater, water system, drinkable water that is, and of course water that is lost in the system because of leaking pipes. And that in itself also amounting to a good 50% of what actually is treated water in the country. That is an area of concern. We'll get to it in a moment. But before the break, Minister, you were saying if you look at what is being provided in the grants and what should essentially be ring-fenced for maintenance and what they collect, it will drop your jaw. The system on its own, we'll get into the biology in a moment and the chemicals, but the system of it all, the condition of the system. Firstly, you sample 151 out of 1,035. Why? Are you not able to get to all of it? Well,
our sampling was a little bit low this time around because we didn't have all the time. We don't have all the time, and we thought because there's data anyway from the other assessment, we can do just a sampling to check progress, to make an assessment if we're turning the corner or not. And so it was felt that this is enough, or about enough.
We are not turning
give us a sense
from what it looks like in terms of the system. Is this because municipalities are just delaying the process of maintaining this infrastructure, or they're just hoping that it will keep working by some form of osmosis of some sort?
On the 18th and 19th February last year, when we called a summit on water and sanitation. This after visiting all water service authorities in all provinces, spending 3 days in each province, just talking to them about water. We had just been appointed at that time, and we were also wanting to learn and understand the issues. They counted in that summit, most municipalities, even in that interaction during our visit, that when you ask the mayor to speak, the first word would be, Minister, we have a problem of old infrastructure. Yeah. So, if you were talking, if a mayor was talking to you in 2002 February, it would mean that would have been a mayor who would have been appointed somewhere in 2021 municipal elections. So this is now 2022, we have a summit. Now, it's talking about an old infrastructure. So you don't know, possibly the predecessor would have also complained about the same. Yeah. And possibly the predecessor of the predecessor would have complained about that. Now, let's take the case of Rooiwal. The first flagging of Rooiwal was 2004.
Yeah.
It comes out now.
Yeah.
The second one was in 2007.
Yes.
So, this is how it happens. There would be flagging, you look the other way around. There would be second flagging, you don't address it, you look the other way around. And so it happens on and on until the whole system can't hold anything. We have municipalities where the system can't hold anything any longer at the moment because of this practice. Now, in part, local government, in part also SALGA. Yeah. We all need to tighten our hands and not just exist, but tighten our hands, focus, make sure that we oversee institutions, that is local government, and that work. And they must be seen, because nobody wants to collapse local government as a sphere.
Do we have planners? I'm just listening to you and I'm thinking, I mean, they're saying now the inflow in Rooiwal, of course, it's uncontrollable now because people have migrated, people are building and so on and so forth. But don't we have a planner? Don't you have somebody who sits and watches the system and forecasts that, okay, right now we've got a space for 2 pipes. If we are going to get more people, we're going to need a 3rd pipe, and we don't have the 3rd pipe. Let's put a plan in place to say, by the time those people come here, that 3rd pipe is in place.
Well, humans, that is just human beings. In part, not all of them, some human beings. They will have a tendency of, you look at your tire, your front wheel tire on your right.
Yeah.
You say, yeah, I need to change this tire. But then you don't do it. And then next month, at times, until you get the accident. So we'll say, there is some element of the tendency of human beings not to act at the time when they have to act,
right,
even when it may be something that can be catastrophic.
Yeah.
There is
negligence. Is it not called negligence? And therefore somebody needs to be fired for
that. Is its name. But what we need to agree on, having said this, is that such a practice and a tendency shouldn't have space in the public space, because local government, provincial government, national government exists for the people. Because if you ignore that, it means that the catastrophe is going to be felt by people.
Yeah.
And the problem is going to be felt by people on the ground. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I think these are lessons that we are learning. And the bell is gone for all of us to really wake up and earn our roles and our titles and our salaries and everything, so that we don't cruise, but we don't do anything of substance and importance that will protect life. And in water and sanitation, we've all told ourselves long ago that the bell is gone. That's why, on our own, even without Section 63, we go to municipalities and say, all right, we're not coming here via Section 63, but we are here now. Look at this. Can you give us an answer? What's your response? They normally say, yes, it's a problem. But I came in here, I found it was a problem. And so on and so on. And then we say, let's join hands, let us correct it together. That's why we're all over joining hands with mayors and municipalities who say, let's correct this. Yeah. A pipe that broke 10 years ago.
A pipe that broke 10 years ago. But could that explain something like the chemicals? I mean,
yes.
It's either you're not an expert, you got there with a bogus certificate, you don't know how to mix your chemicals. Why is the chemical quality wrong? Why is the microbiology of the water wrong? And why it is so far wrong? I mean, in 2012, only 10% were of poor microbiological quality. Today, it's 50%.
So it's the same thing. But this one is much more pointed, because you're talking about elements or bacteria that are harmful.
Yeah.
Hence, in some cases, leading to things like cholera, but it may also lead to other diseases.
Yeah.
And all of them so harmful, or some of them so harmful that they kill. Now, so we are talking about something that is sensitive. Now, it goes to skills that are focused on water. Now, if you go to municipalities and you say, all right, let's get people who are working just on water in this municipality, 200 or whatever number, and you say, leave your certificates here and your qualifications, I just want to see. Most cases, it will be, you will never cease to be amazed. You say, how? When you look at the whole total. So we've got to migrate from this situation and say, because water is life, it gets to your body and to the bodies of the nation.
Yeah.
It's not like potholes. I'm not saying potholes are better, but at least you turn this side, this way, you keep on going forward.
It's like going to a doctor. Would you go to a heart surgeon and this person says, I'm a heart surgeon, and then you look at their qualifications, they didn't even make it to university?
That's the issue. On water, it's a standstill. And if beyond that, it can kill. And therefore, we've got to wake up to that fact that this kind of thing, and therefore bring people who are skilled, bring people who have knowledge, who will then say, no, the presence of this kind of bacteria, whether they are microbiological or they are just chemicals, the content is now reaching a point where it will be deadly. Let's do something about it. Let's close this plant or something drastic. And you speak such that your mayor, your MM hear you. One of the things why we would want water to be ring-fenced is that the MM and so on shouldn't take water just like any other responsibility in the municipality.
Right.
Because of the same reason, you have lives of human beings there. It's not just failure to repair a car in the fleet of the municipality. It's different. Because we can all really get the same black brush as government, all spheres, just because there's a particular grouping of people in a municipality who don't meet qualifications, who don't meet the requirements of that meet the responsibility that they have to perform. I mean, you can't have a person leading water in a municipality who only carries a spanner, go around and just hit this and that and say, no, everything is well. And so on.
Was that not the thinking, though, of water boards? Is that not what they are actually supposed to be doing?
No, they primarily bring or supply bulk water to municipalities. They don't get inside the municipality. So they just supply. Now, and once water has been received by the receiving municipality, then their pumping, their treatment, their sewer treatment is all theirs.
Right.
And that's where that's what we need to do to say, now, water is no longer, I always tell a story that in the olden days, when government at the national level no longer requires, or maybe, I don't know about municipalities at that time, because we had no municipality. All municipalities were for white people, by white mayors and all of that. Now, I don't know how they did it. But even that government, apparate government in the olden days, when they no longer, want you that much in cabinet, and they want you to retire or be appointed as Minister of Forestry and Water. So you'll go there, and retire. Now, this time around, I think we have to wake up to reality that you can't have municipality or municipal employees on water, all of them, unable to read some of the things like chemical content, bacteria, simply because it can cause catastrophe.
Back live with you with the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, with us. Your thoughts have been coming through on 07211055584. Let's take some of them, and of course we'll touch on two more areas with the Minister. Kumo in Mamelodi saying, why were they not fixing the infrastructure? Now people are dying because of this cholera. They now want to fix their water. This government has failed us. Mr. Mchunu, how far is the Minister and the Department of Water and Sanitation in supplying water to the people of Giyani? Mike saying the National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure owns and manages wastewater treatment plants in facilities like clinics and hospitals. Please ask the Minister what the green drop results were of these facilities. Minister, want to tackle those?
Number one, if your house, if you're in a house and you see your house is now dirty in terms of what you are seeing, you stand up and sweep. You don't say, by the way, why was so-and-so not cleaning, who was there an hour before? So when you sweep, you can't be asked, why are you sweeping only now? Why have you not been sweeping since morning? It's now 1 o'clock and then you are now jumping and sweeping. It's because it is dirty and you have to perform your job right now. So now we are there. It is us who are there in water and sanitation. We see that things need to be fixed. We're not going to spend time asking questions why these things have not been fixed. We are going to fix it now, and we are doing so right now. Now, the opinion that government is failing, I respect that. That is their opinion. But from where we are, let me take the example as I respond to the question, Guyana. I don't think we're failing on Guyana as an example. I don't think that the decision that we've taken with regard to Tswana, Rooiwal, is failure, because we've taken a decision. We're fixing it. It's a decision that we've taken. Now, there are many other examples where we're intervening and we're not failing. Let me answer the question. I thought
Guyana, you'd already opened the tap and water should be flowing by now. What's the
in Guyana?
Yes.
Well, firstly, when we came in, there was no that pipeline is 49 kilometers. Yeah. There was no pipeline, so there was just talk. You remember, it was just planning and money, but there was no pipeline that was there when we came in 2021. Yes. There is now a pipeline, right. all 49 kilometers. That is not failure. It is there now. 2, water is flowing inside that pipe, right up to Nsami Dam in Guyana. That is not failure. Now, then, at the same time as we were doing this, we realized that the water treatment plant in Nsami, there were 2 of them. We went to check the one that was newer. And we found that really it was falling apart. And we were told it worked for 3 months only, and it was collapsing. Sure. So much that it was out. Now, we then came back to say, let's refurbish this one, but it's a Mopani infrastructure. So they are now doing that. They have appointed a contractor who is now refurbishing. Now, the only thing that needed to be done beyond was reticulating, which is their job as well as a municipality, Water Service Authority. Yeah. They are now, the last time I checked, they had appointed no less than 27 contractors who are out there in the community. Remember, we said out of the 55 villages, we are going to take the first 24. Yes. Now, they are busy doing that. We will be going there at the end of the month to check how far or how close is water from flowing into the households. Okay. But that is what we're doing.
We're going to run out of time because I want you to touch on this. The farmers are saying the provisions have always been there. Section 27 of the Water Act says that there are particular conditions that you would need to fulfill to be given a new license or to renew your license. But they're saying you're now adding regulations that are giving meat to this Section 27 in one particular aspect where you're saying that those who have this needs to renew or to get a new license would now need to meet this BEE requirement. How true is that, and what do you think would be the impact of that? Because they believe it will affect their ability to get finance, it will affect food security in a sense.
We are saying transformation is required in our country. But of course, that transformation must take into consideration a number of things. That's why we are saying, if you have an operational license, don't worry, continue with your license. Whatever, in terms of the regulations that are there. Then we are saying, if you are applying and you are still going to get a license, now meet these new regulations. And I don't think that if anybody has a concern around what is being expressed there, they are free to help, to come to us, engage with us, so that we can see how best we can manage. But we can't hold transformation at the altar of any other reason, because this is qualitative transformation that we're talking about. It is an enabler to bring more people so that they get licenses which they had no access to. Quite a lot of them who would have potential to farm and to use that license to build life, to build their life.
As you're saying, meaningful transformation, you're saying you're deliberate, for example, about the fact that you're not going to consider, they say, well, I've got black people in management, I've got skills development, I've got enterprise development. You are not going to look at that. You're going to strictly focus on ownership.
No, we are saying there are regulations currently.
Yeah.
And then we are saying in terms of the transformation agenda of the country, there are things, there are aspects that were not catered for in the issuing of licenses and the conditions under which they were issued in the olden days. Now, we need to bring on board other regulations that will transform water and sanitation, water in particular, the water licenses regime.
Yes.
Look, people are not complaining about us issuing licenses within 90 days, and we're at 80% now issuing this, because it is covering everybody and so on. But because we are issuing regulations which some people find a little bit painful, they can't sacrifice for that and accommodate, then they start doing so. But we welcome that. Our government, we're not going to shun away from engaging communities and farmers, whether they're black or white. But the main thing is that we must all accept the transformation agenda of the country.
I'll bring you back because they still have 60 days to make submissions so that we can have a much broader conversation on this one. Minister, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we thank you for joining us in this conversation.